Under light wave, we are going to consider what rectilinear propagation of light. Now, what does rectilinear propagation of light mean? It's trying to tell us, or it's trying to explain, it shows that what light travels in a straight line. Now, what are those evidence that shows or explains that light travels in a straight line? Please take a look at the evidence, those evidence that shows us or explains to us that light travels in a straight line are: 1. We have the formation of shadow. Formation of what? Of shadow. Number 2, formation of the eclipse. And number 3, we talk about the pinhole camera. So these are the words. These are the 3 evidence that shows that what? Light travels in a straight line. Now, let's explain them one after the other. I'll pick number 1, formation of shadow. I'll talk about what? Formation of shadow. Now, let us briefly explain shadow. Now, shadow is the image formed. And what is shadow? Shadow is what? Is the image formed when an opaque, because I've explained opaque in my previous class. So, shadow is the image formed when an opaque body or object obstructs or block the ray of light. The image that is formed is called shadow. Now, we have 2 types of shadow. Types of shadow. Number 1, we have the umbra, and number 2, we have the penumbra. So types of shadow, we have the words umbra and penumbra. Now, if that is the case now, let me explain. Are you there? Let me explain. Number 1, umbra. Now, umbra is a what? You are saying is a completely or total dark shadow. What is umbra? Is a total dark shadow. Shadow. So that is what? Umbra. And it usually occur when the light source is small compared to the what? To the opaque object or body. Please take note of that. And the umbra is a total dark shadow. It usually occurs when the light source is small compared to the opaque object. Now, let us give a brief diagram on this guy. If this is a source of light, if this is a what? A source of what? Of light. And if this is what? If this is the opaque, let's take out the opaque body. If this is opaque body, and I want to it very what? Let's make it dark. Very dark. This part is very what? Dark. We call this our what? We call this part the what? Umbra. Now this one, let's call it the what? Opaque body. Opaque object. And let's call it our what? Small source of light. So these are an example of what? A shadow known as what? Umbra. Now, if I do this now, let me explain the second part of the types of shadow, which is what? Umbra. So let me explain the type of shadow which is what? Or penumbra. Penumbra. So please take note of it. The penumbra. So on the other hand, I will explain penumbra as what? Penumbra is what? A partial or a partial dark shadow. That is penumbra. A partial what? A partial what? Dark shadow. So now that is it usually occurs when the light source is large compared to the opaque body. So that is what. Let's take a look at now. What is penumbra? It is a partial dark shadow. It usually occurs when the light source is large compared to the what? Opaque body. Now in that case now, let me explain using the what? Diagram for opaque. Order number 2 now. So let me draw the diagram. Let us illustrate using diagram. Don't mind the diagram. Don't mind the diagram. So let us look at this the source of light. Let us look at this what? The source of light. Are you there? Let us look at this source of light. Let me go beyond this part. I want to go beyond this part. Let us look at this source of light. In this case, let me assume this is the source of light. So that's this is what opaque body, and this is so this is dot. Let's dot this, and this part is what shaded. Now from this this shaded part of it is our what? Umbra, and this other side is our what? Penumbra. So these are what? Opaque objects, and these are what? Large source of light. These are what? Large source of what? Of light. So this is an example of what? Diagram of what? Penumbra. So that is that on what? Shadow. Now, are you there? Now, that is that on penumbra. So let's move to number 2. Let's explain eclipse. Let's explain what? Eclipse. Let's explain eclipse. Now, number 2 now. Now, let's explain number 2. Let's talk about eclipse. So let us briefly explain eclipse. What is eclipse? Eclipse is formed, or eclipse occurs when it's total, or when it's what? Total obstruction. Now, when it's total what? Blockage, or what? Total obstruction of a luminous body by one another. Now, when it's what? A total obstruction or total blockage by a luminous body by one another. So now, eclipse occurs when the sun, the moon, and the earth lie in a straight line. And now, when does eclipse occurs? Eclipse occurs when the sun, the moon, and the earth lie in a straight line. Now in this my lesson now, I'll just explain 2 types of the eclipse. We have about 3 types thereabouts. So let's explain types of eclipse. Types of what? Eclipse. I'll basically explain 2. Number 1, I'll explain the solar eclipse. Number 2, I'll explain what? Lunar eclipse. So I'll pick them one after the other. Number 1, solar eclipse. Solar what? Eclipse. Please take a look now. Solar eclipse occurs. Solar what? Take a look now. Solar eclipse occurs when the what? When the moon comes in between the sun and the earth. Everybody, when does solar eclipse occurs? Solar eclipse occurs when the moon comes in between the sun and the earth. And take note, solar eclipse is also known as eclipse of the moon. Solar eclipse is also known as what? Eclipse of the what? Eclipse of the moon. So let me draw a little bit diagram. I don't know how to draw, just take that with me. Now, let me draw it here. Let me bring it here. Let me draw it here. Let me draw it here. I would like to draw it on this part. So, solar eclipse. So, let's take solar eclipse occurs when the what? When the moon comes in between the sun and the earth. So, let's take this one to be the sun. That's when this is the what? The sun. So, and this is the what? And this is the what? Earth. So, just give a picture. Don't mind my drawing. So now, when the moon, that is the moon. So, so let us assume that this is what now. Okay. So that's why I'm drawing. So let's take this one. Let's assume that this is the sun. This does the don't take the diagram. This is what Earth, and this is what a moon. So this is what called eclipse of this was solar eclipse. So this is the what? This is the picture of solar eclipse now. So let me explain lunar eclipse. Number 2. I will explain lunar eclipse. Number 2. Lunar eclipse. Lunar eclipse. Now, what is lunar eclipse? Lunar eclipse occurs when the earth comes in between. When the what? When the earth comes in between the sun and the moon. When the earth comes in between the sun and the what? And the moon. So that is what? Lunar eclipse. And lunar eclipse is also known as what? Eclipse of the what? Lunar eclipse is also known as eclipse of this thing. So let's take a look at lunar eclipse occurs when what? When the earth comes in between the sun and the moon. Take note of that. So let me just draw the diagram. Excuse me now. Let me just draw the diagram. Now, lunar eclipse, let me just give a visual diagram of how it will look like. So this is the what? Let me assume that this is the sun. Let me take it on to be the what? To be the sun. So if this is the sun, let's assume that is the sun. So, and this is what X coming. Let me assume that this is the what. Let me just draw. Don't have my drawing. So let me assume that this is the what. This is the moon. This is the moon. And let me assume that this is the what now. Let me assume that the earth is coming in between. Let me just take out the earth. Don't mind my drawing. So let's please don't mind my drawing. No? This is the sun and this is what? The moon. So okay, let's go to bring this one. I can bring this one together like this. Oh, let me just bring it this way. So don't mind my drawing, please. So let me this what? The earth, and this is the moon. So this is the diagram of what? Lunar eclipse. Now lastly, let's talk about what? Pinhole camera. Let's talk about what? Pinhole camera. Number 3. Pinhole camera. Pinhole camera. Lastly, let's talk about what? Pinhole camera. That is number 3. Let's go to pinhole camera. So let's talk about the properties or characteristics. Properties or what? Characteristics of what? Pinhole camera. So let's go to number 1. Image formed by a pinhole camera is always inverted. This is what? It is always inverted. inverted. This is what? Inverted. So image from my video camera is always inverted. Image from is always what? Inverted. Image from is always inverted. That's the one property of video camera. It is sharp and clear. It is what? Sharp and clear. Number 3. It is bright but blur. It is what? Bright but what? Blur. If the hole is wide or more than 1. Number 4. It is sharp. It is what? Sharp. It is dark but sharp. Let's look at it. It is dark but sharp. If the hole is one or narrow. Listen now. It is dark but sharp if the hole is one or narrow. Now what is number 5 property now? I will try to write number 5 here. Now number 5 property. Now increase in the distance. Increase in what? In the distance between the hole. Between the what? Between the hole and the translucent, the distance between the hole and the translucent sheet. Increase in the distance between the hole and the translucent sheet. Enlarge the size of the image form. Everybody take note of that. Of the image form. Increase in the distance between the hole and the translucent sheet. Enlarge the size of the image form. Now, I'll take the last property, which is what? Property 6. Now, number 6 comes to that. Moving the object nearer to the pinhole also enlarge the size of the image formed. Please note of that. Moving the what? Object nearer to the what? Pinhole also enlarge the size of the image formed. Now in this now, sharply, let's discuss on magnification, or let's talk about this pinhole camera in the diagram of this pinhole camera. Please take a look at this number 6. Let me move to this part now. I want to move to this. Please, this you can see this way now. Now, if this is the case now, let me move to this pinhole camera. Pinhole what? Pinhole camera. Pinhole camera. So let's just take this case now, because pinhole camera is meant from an opaque box. Let us look at this is the what? Opaque box. I'll just give a brief explanation on this guy. And if this is the pinhole, now if an object is standing here, let's take this guy to be what? An object. If this is an object, now if a ray of light pass from here, let's take this way. Don't mind my drawing, please. Let's take this to be like this. Now, in this case now, we are having a film, photographic film. The object will be formed out inverted. This is the image formed. Now, in this case now, a ray of light can pass through this place, and this is this way. Now, if this is the case now, this here is a what? Let me call it my photographic film, or I call it screen. Now, if that is the case now, this guy from this place to this place, this is the what? Object. Why this is the what? Image formed. Image formed. Now, if this is the object, how it is, let me call it the object height. And outward is the image, let me call it what? Image height, that is HI. Now, from where the object is standing to this pinhole is called object distance. I will denote by U. Please take those U. Whenever I see U is object distance. Now, from where this image is formed to this pinhole, I will call it image distance, or I will call it L. Where L is the length of the camera. Length of what? Camera. Or the length of the rectangular box. So take those down. This is now, what is my HO? Height of object, or object height. Object height. So here, U equals what? Object distance. Object distance. And V equals what? V or L. Okay, let me say V equals what? Image distance. And HI equals what? Image height. So, and L can be called the length of camera, or you can still call it length or the width of rectangular box. Now, this part is called the pinhole. It's called the what? Pinhole. Why do we call it pinhole? Because this hole is created using pin. So we call it what? Pinhole. So that's why we are talking about the property. When you increase the size of this hole up to the image will be blown up again. So take note of this properties here and this diagram here. My next class will be discussing on the magnification of this pinhole camera, and we'll be solving question. Just this my video, just subscribe. So when I upload a new video on migration, you get what notified. Please subscribe, share, like, and comment, and may God bless you.